Hello and welcome to Idaho Bigfoot. Today we're discussing one of the three major senses every animal and every human on Earth has, the sense of smell. This is a part 2 of a series of episodes discussing the potential senses Bigfoot has. Now I want to make a disclaimer. I'm not an expert on biology nor Bigfoot. And in all honesty, no one is truly an expert when it comes to Sasquatch or Sasquatch research. Unless we get someone living with a group of Bigfoot and documenting every behavior and idiosyncrasy of the individuals in the group as a whole, much like Jane Goodall did with chimpanzees, no one really knows much about wood apes. Some, like Jeff Meldrum, are experts of footprints and anthropology, but none of us know all there is to know about these creatures. If we had our own sightings, we're basing everything we know or believe off of what we saw. Or if we haven't had our own sightings, we're basing everything we believe off of what someone else has seen. Trusting that not only are they telling the truth, but they are telling it the way it happened. And that brings me to my next point. I'm obviously assuming that Bigfoot exists. I know many have their own theories about its existence or are super skeptical. Everything I share here is my own opinion, but I do my best to be as factual as possible. Now enough of that. Why is this an important topic? Well, many conduct their research wearing perfume, cologne, or clothing that is not only very colorful, as I brought out in the first video I did about the sense of sight, but is also washed with smelly detergents and fabric softeners. Some might be petting dogs or have cigarette smoke on them, and in general just don't tend to pay much attention to being stealthy. For me, I believe wholeheartedly that Bigfoot can see, hear, or smell you, especially if someone else could. So if you are trying to stalk and find a Bigfoot, potentially nature's stealthiest inhabitant, why not do your best to be as quiet, hard to see, and hard to smell as possible? I know some just go with the theory that Bigfoot can just sense you no matter how much you try to evade its detection. But to me that's often more of an excuse than an explanation. But to each their own. One of the best ways, I think, to gauge the potential senses or capabilities of a wood ape is to find a middle ground between an animal, especially if it's in the same geographical range, and a human. Part of the problem is that us humans have the tendency to become noseblind to things we wear or live around. If you constantly wash your clothes with a common detergent, let's say Tide for example, and I have nothing against Tide by the way, but you take a 2-month break from using it, the moment you start using it again, the smell will hit you hard. That scent was always there, you just finally noticed it. We humans tend to rely heavily on eyesight, hence why people who deal with going blind are so admirable to me. After all, they have to basically start from square one in life. But what every blind person will tell you is that their other senses become heightened, the sense of smell being one of them. If trained, we can have a good sense of smell. Wine tasters and coffee tasters learn to refine their sense of smell because of how much it affects their sense of taste. We can recognize thousands of different smells, if not far, far more, as we'll talk about in a moment, and we are able to detect odors even in infinitesimal quantities. Our smelling function is carried out by 2 small odor-detecting patches made up of about 5 or 6 million yellowish cells, high up in the nasal passages. Our smelling ability increases to reach a plateau at about the age of 8 and declines in old age. Some researchers claim that our smell sensitivity begins to deteriorate long before old age, perhaps even from the early 20s. One experiment claims to indicate a decline in sensitivity to specific odors from the age of 15. But other scientists report that smelling ability depends on the person's state of mental and physical health, with some very healthy 80-year-olds having the same olfactory prowess as young adults. Interestingly enough, women consistently outperform men on all tests of smelling ability. Smell sensitivity researchers have to be very careful about the odors they use in experiments, because a smell is not always a smell. Many odorous substances activate not only the olfactory system, but also the somatosensory system. And I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, and I do apologize. But they are the nerve endings in our noses which are sensitive to temperature, pain, and more. This is why patients with anosmia, people who have completely lost their sense of smell, can still detect menthol, phenyl ethyl alcohol, and many other substances. In a study testing anosmics' ability to perceive odorous substances, it was found that many so-called odors are in fact affecting the pain and temperature-sensitive nerve endings, rather than the olfactory receptors. Out of 47 odorous substances, anosmics could detect 45. Only 2 substances could not be detected by the anosmic patients. Those were deicanoic acid and vanillin, which affect only the olfactory receptors and thus safely can be classified as pure odors. Some unpleasant smells do more than just annoy or disgust us. They actually cause us pain. A 2014 study showed that we can distinguish at least 1 trillion different odors, which is up from previous estimates of a mere 10,000. Awareness of our innate smelling abilities, however, is complicated because the human language doesn't have words for a trillion smells, and much of smelling happens under the radar of our consciousness. Unlike our other senses, the olfactory nerves do not proceed directly to the brain's thalamus, the gateway to consciousness. Instead, information feeds from the nose to cortical areas to arouse emotions and memories without our awareness. When it comes to smells, people can be influenced and not even realize it. What about gorillas? Since gorillas are often the first creature people think of to describe their Bigfoot encounter, I think they are a worthy contribution to this video. Interestingly enough, they may be worth discussing in their own video. What do I mean? Well, many describe smelling a wet dog mixed with rotten eggs and a rotting flesh type disgusting scent when they've had an encounter. It typically hits right before they lay their eyes on the creature. You yourself may have had this experience. Well, it turns out that gorilla BO can be louder or softer to communicate status, fear, or more subtle information to those around them. The odor becomes stronger from anger and distress. Not only can the odor signal emotional responses, such as to danger, but they can be modulated and be used to regulate the behaviors of other gorillas. Our results suggest that silverback odor strength can be turned up or turned down, as well as turned on or turned off as a function of the context and relationship between the emitter and perceivers, and that varying odor intensities may communicate different contexts and specific types of information, said researchers Michelle Kolova and Phyllis Lee from the University of Stirling in Britain. Gorillas use scent to get other gorillas to stay away, or to tell those in his group that he was there. That tells me not only do gorillas have a good sense of smell for scents like that to have an impact, but that describing Bigfoot as gorilla-like may be more accurate than first thought. Gorillas are able to detect strong odors in the environment, like human sweat and the scent of an unfamiliar gorilla. Males use females' odors to determine their reproductive statuses, and silverbacks emit a scent from their armpits when they sense strangers around them. Now, what about chimpanzees? Well, studies show that chimpanzees can discern unfamiliar scents through urine samples, and chimpanzees have a stronger sense of olfaction than we give them credit for. Odor is likely especially important because most chimpanzees live in dense forests where visibility is low, and because in chimpanzee societies, group members split up into subgroups that may not see each other for days. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Astoundingly, the researchers during those studies found that the chimpanzees sniffed longer at urine samples contracted from their relatives, which suggests that they can discern family members from scent alone. The ability to recognize kin is crucial because it allows animals to choose appropriate partners for coalitions, avoid mating with close relatives, and avoid killing their own offspring, explained study co-author Joe Setchell. Our results help us to understand the evolution of primate chemical communication and suggest that we should pay more attention to olfaction in apes. Black bears are found nearly everywhere in North America, easily overlapping with the locations where most Bigfoot sightings occur. The two are vastly different in behavior, characteristics, and size, but likely feed off the same foods and compete naturally. The area inside a black bear's nose, called the nasal mucosa, is 100 times greater than ours. This large nose results in an excellent sense of smell. Even bloodhounds, dogs so famous for their sense of smell that they're used to track missing people, don't smell as well as a black bear. It's estimated that black bear's sense of smell is about 7 times greater than a bloodhound's. A black bear's sense of smell is so good that it's difficult to measure. Bears are commonly thought to have the keenest sense of smell in the entire animal kingdom, and estimates of the range of their sense of smell vary widely. Conservative estimates of a black bear's sense of smell state that a black bear can smell a food source from over a mile away, while more generous estimates place a black bear's sense of smell between 18 and 20 miles. which may sound extreme, until you learn that polar bears, the black bear's cousin, have been known to follow seals for up to 40 miles. Bears can still be startled by humans, but there's a good chance that they know a person is there by smell long before the person sees the bear. Now, the grizzly bear is also likely a big competitor to Bigfoot in the natural world. The grizzly bear can smell 2,100 times better than a human, making them the world's ultimate sniffing machine. A bear's olfactory bulb, which manages the sense of smell, is 5 times larger than ours, even though its brain is a third of a size. The snout itself contains 2 9-inch channels, each with 10 million nerve strands, and billions, with a B, of receptors shooting information into the animal's brain. Smelling as a bear does might be like touching and feeling something at a distance, which to me is an important point. Assuming that Bigfoot could have that same capability and same sense of smell, even though I doubt it's that keen, if it is true, then try and imagine just how stinky plastic smells. Then imagine that they've come across that smell before and associate it with trail cams. Could that be why they avoid trail cams as well as they do? It's a thought. Now, wolves and dogs also have excellent senses of smell. A trained dog can not only smell a fish in a stream, but can distinguish between species of fish by scent alone. A typical dog's nose is about 100 times better than a human's, and a bloodhound's perhaps 300 times better. See, the tip of the wolf's nose is a complex landscape of minute ridges and creases, which when combined with the outer edges of nostrils, creates a pattern as distinct as a human fingerprint. Each nostril can be moved independently, allowing wolves to determine which direction a particular scent is coming from. Inside the broad snout are approximately 280 million scent receptors. Scientists know that wolves can smell prey 2.5 kilometers, or about 1.5 miles away. Gordon Haber, who spent most of his life researching wolves in Alaska, was convinced that wolves could smell a dead moose or caribou buried under 10 feet of snow, even if the wind was blowing the wrong direction. Now let's talk about one last creature, the white-tailed deer. As a deer hunter, I well know just how good a deer's sense of smell can be. And this doesn't just apply to white-tailed deer. This can also apply to mule deer and likely other deer species such as elk. But I'm specifically talking about the white-tailed deer. But the moist nose of a deer, similar to that of a dog, allows the deer to pick up the faintest of odors. The odor particles, drifting on by the breeze, stick to the moisture on the deer's nose and then are drawn into the olfactory organs. A deer can detect the odor of approaching danger several hundred yards away. This is why you should always try to hunt with the breeze in your face. Their elongated noses are filled with an intricate system of nasal passages that contain millions of olfactory receptor sites. Their keen sense of smell is very important for avoiding predators, identifying other deer, and identifying food sources. Perhaps most importantly, their sense of smell is important for scent communication with other deer. Deer have 7 glands that are used primarily for scent communication. The nose of a white-tailed deer has up to 297 million olfactory receptors. Some studies have estimated that the white-tailed deer's ability to smell is about 10,000 times stronger than a human's. And they are good at sorting out the odors, too. In one study, it was determined that a deer could separate at least 6 different odors when they are mixed together. Think you're going to cover your odor with a dollop of skunk cover scent beside you? Nope. In fact, it's been rumored that dogs have this ability, too. Instead of just smelling soup like we do, they might even be able to identify all the different ingredients in that soup. Imagine having a nose like that. Thankfully, we don't. But getting back on topic, how do you get around this? Fortunately, we have products at our disposal that help reduce and control our odor. Scent killer spray has been tested to significantly reduce human odor. Antibacterial soaps and laundry detergents have been shown to help reduce the bacteria that is responsible for most human odor. Activated carbon is very good at absorbing odor, but it might not have the longevity that we once thought it would have when added to clothing. Silver added to clothing has been shown to help reduce odor. There are more products being developed all the time that help reduce human odor. Now, nothing we've come up with so far can reduce odor to the point that a deer cannot smell you if the wind carries your scent to it. That's still no excuse to avoid cleanliness and avoid products that help reduce your human odor. Because less is better, even if we cannot achieve total scent elimination. Washing your clothes with scent-killing detergents, spraying down your equipment and car seat and clothes before you go out and while you're outside, spraying down trail cameras before putting them up, using antiperspirants like Mitchum on your armpits or places where you tend to get very sweaty, and even potentially using a small ozone generator in your car or where you set up, say in a tree stand or a blind, can make all the difference in how likely you are to encounter a Sasquatch, or a game animal if you're actually hunting. See, for me, keeping this in mind during research, I personally believe will prove to be wise. Again, many people do not consider what Sasquatch might be able to see, hear, and smell. And guess what? We still haven't found decisive proof of its existence. Now, I'm not attacking anyone or calling anyone out. But because people wear perfume, smell badly because of the scents contained in detergents and fabric softeners, wear clothing that absolutely glows because of UV brighteners and are typically bright colors to begin with, they don't pay any attention to how noisy they are, don't pay attention to the wind direction, use equipment that is probably visible to these creatures, as I discussed in the video before about sight, and typically have little experience with stalking and finding game animals, well, no wonder they have a hard time getting close to a smart, cunning creature that doesn't want to be near humans. Unsurprisingly, hunters who do pay attention to these things, are descented, camouflaged, quiet, pay attention to their surroundings, have some of the best encounters and even evidence that can be found throughout the field. So obviously there's pros and cons to everything. There's no doubt about that. But I would love to see someone break the mold and pursue different ways of Bigfoot research. I personally believe that it will pay off. Next time you go into the woods, I want you to try to watch your movement, to keep a very close eye on everything around you. Always scan the area around you. Keep an eye out for little things that stand out. Keep an eye out for patterns. Don't just look 8 feet off the ground, but look in grassy areas. Look in shadowy areas, places that are hard to see. Every so often, just stop and listen. Try and watch how you walk, and try and pick your feet up more when you walk, and try to control your step as you put your foot down to not be as noisy. Try to watch the wind direction. Always have it in your face instead of at your back. Just keep an eye on these little things and let me know if it works. Now, of course, that's just a challenge. You don't need to do that at all if you don't want to. But I believe that you might just find you have a better experience. And even if you don't see or hear anything Sasquatch related, at the very least you will be enjoying nature to the full. As a hunter, it really surprises me just how little people actually enjoy nature. Once you really take everything in, you hear chipmunks, you see squirrels running around, you hear the birds chirping, you hear turkeys or elk, and you really take everything in around you and appreciate the beauty of the world around you. You tend to see the world differently, and it's a very beautiful thing, and it helps you appreciate being in the moment more. But anyway, guys, that concludes my argument. I want to give a big thanks to all the articles, websites, and resources that allowed me to make this video and be as accurate as possible. I want to give a big thanks there. And thank you all for watching to the end. Please feel free to let me know what you think, but remember to keep the comment section friendly. We want to have an interchange of encouragement and discussion rather than attacking people. And if you have any experiences you'd like me to share, please feel free to email me at idahobigfootchannel@gmail.com. I can keep you anonymous, that's perfectly fine. And remember to like this video, subscribe for more content, and please share this video wherever you'd like. If you're on YouTube, you can do so by clicking the share button down below and copying the link. Believe me, it really helps. So again, thank you all very much, and I'll see you next time.